Welcome to another episode of the Network for Financial Crime Prevention podcasts. I'm your guest host, Marika Torsdotter, and this week we are joined by some very inspiring ladies in an International Women's Day special we call Women in Financial Crime Prevention. We will have a chance to understand what got these ladies into financial crime prevention to begin with, what aspect they enjoyed the most, if they have any advice for women looking to join, and so much more. But first, some quick housekeeping. If you are not a member of NFCP, you can sign up via our website, www.nfcp.info. Follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube channels. Our community exists for you, those who work in risk, compliance, and FinCrime areas in any industry. Keep in mind, we are only sharing our personal thoughts, and in no way what we say today should be taken as legal advice. Aneta, I'm so looking forward to speaking to you. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. Sorry. Thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah, obviously we're both excited to get started. So how about we kick this off like this, that you tell us a little bit more about you, your role, and the company you're running.
Yes, of course. So my name is Aneta Klosek. I founded Aethea last year. It's a cool startup that brings together compliance professionals with the right tools and teaches them also about the tools of tomorrow.
Wow, that's really exciting. So the tools of tomorrow, but if we start to looking backwards a little bit, so how did you get into financial crime prevention to start with?
Purely by chance. I started my career in traditional banking, the sort of account opening, talking to clients, being a proper bank clerk in my town where I grew up. And KYC was surprisingly actually a term that was not really familiar with. I mean, of course, you check identities and so on, but it's not in the wider sense. You never really think about money laundering or financial crime in the scheme or in the capacity that we think of today. And fast forwards over the years, I then got the chance to go to London and got my first sale role actually for a startup back then that provides data and technology for sanction screening, where I learned about financial crime compliance, what it is, and how technology actually helps customers to address the efficiency issues in that area. And then, I took it upon myself because I found that topic so interesting to learn more about it, about the Pablo Escobar history, about all the traditional old school money launderers. And I thought it was a fascinating subject matter, especially how it actually presents itself in the financial system in the modern world, which obviously changed over the years quite a bit. And then I specialized myself with the appropriate certificates and diplomas to really deepen my knowledge, and never looked back since.
That's so cool. So you know a lot about this. That's not an understatement. But can you think of one thing that you would say is the best thing about working in this area?
Working in this area, the best thing is that I do sometimes feel a little bit like a superhero, because I do have real impact on the real world in helping organizations to prevent themselves and spot criminals. And I think, it's a double-sided sword, because it's a really cool thing that given the geopolitical tensions and changes and anything that's going on in the world, I will never run out of a job. But at the same time, it's also, of course, a sad thing.
That is very true. It's a good way to look at it. So we need more superheroes in general, but we also need more female superheroes. So would you have any advice for women looking to enter this space?
I think the biggest thing is the network. Surround yourself with people who have similar or equal interests than you, and to really deepen your knowledge, and to maybe pursue any certifications and even with free courses. There is so much out there to really familiarize yourself and deepen your knowledge in that space. Also, of course, then start building your brand, lead with thought leadership, familiarize yourself with the content, what is out there, see the bigger picture, but also speak a lot to people who are experiencing pains and so how regulations actually impact them directly, indirectly, their organizations. Don't be afraid to bring actually your own twist. So once you have established yourself, really be the person that you are. We don't have to speak about regulations and about efficiency and effectiveness in a dry and dusty form, but we can actually really make it exciting and bring different nuances into that. I think that's the key in actually bringing our own character and personality into the space that drives change and innovation forward.
That's a really good answer. There's a lot of good things to unpack for people or women who want to get into the field. Some might be a little bit scary, but get to it if you want to grow in this field. And do you think there's anything that women uniquely could bring to risk and compliance?
I think compliance needs good judgment. I think many women are socialized to read nuance and power dynamics, and I think women are very good in identifying unspoken tension very well, and I think that's very incredibly valuable in risk and compliance.
I love that aspect and how you bring it to the humankind of it. So you have over 16 years of experience in this field. What would be like a pivotal moment or a case that have shaped how you approach your work today?
That's a very good question. I think in compliance, there is a lot of tick box exercises, as in, how do you make sure to just protect yourself, prevent yourself from obviously risk exposure and so on. But actually, nobody tells anyone on how to do it. And regulators use typically very broad generalizations on what needs to be done, but never really provide the real context in more detail for anyone to know how it's applied then in the real world in practical terms. I remember that regulators started to shift their focus from traditional financial institutions onto other sectors and segments of industries. And these industries had virtually never really touch points with the traditional topics that stem from financial crime. And all of a sudden, they were expected to actually do something about it. So it was like a learning curve, a very steep learning curve for them, as in like to familiarize themselves with the subject matter, but then to also learn about the practicalities and any tools and any technology that is involved. I think for me, the pivotal moment was when I was not afraid to ask as many questions as I could to not only understand what they understood already, but what they didn't understand. And it was almost like a therapy session for both of us, where I learned that customers are just as afraid, that they don't know everything, and sometimes they might be afraid to admit that because, of course, the stakes are very high. But at the same time, that it gives me the opportunity, the more I ask, the more I can actually help. And that was a very pivotal moment because it built such a big trust. And in risk, I mean, as the word already implies, risk comes with trust, as in you are comfortable to take more risks if you're trusting your own procedures, processes, as well as those that help you to achieve those processes and procedures.
I love how you phrase that. Just, when you're at the pivotal moment that you are daring to ask questions and help build trust through those asking those questions and helping them. It's a very good one. So you talk about a lot how this field has evolved during the years that you've been in it. Is there anything that surprised you with this evolution during these years?
Also a very good question, and also one that I quite like to chuckle about, because we're surrounded, or we're in the middle of the AI era, where we probably believe to think that AI will change everything, and that we're in such a era of innovation and transformation that it's almost overwhelming of a transformation, right? But then again, there are areas that customers and that are actually a basis for proper compliance, or to make tools even work, and to make to be able to establish procedures and processes and so on. But what I find most surprising is that in 10 years, even 15 years, when I talk about all of my history in my career and having talked to so many customers, is that there are still two major areas that haven't changed at all, actually, which is the all ever present data problem, as in like the quality of data. That still can be a big bottleneck for everyone to actually conduct proper compliance, as well as the knowledge gap, as in like knowledge in technology and what it actually does, to not make it a tick box exercise for compliance, but actually to really implement solutions that compliance officers understand, if that makes sense. And I think what really is surprising is that criminals seem to have evolved in understanding that they can use interdisciplinary actions, as in like they commit fraud, they commit scams, in order to actually get to commit bigger financial crimes than just a small scam here and there. And they have really understood that tools actually help them even to leverage all of these different things and combine them together to actually get to the target. Whereas on the other side, in the prevention space, we still seem to have a lot of silos, and the departments don't work together. And that's the most mind-blowing thing for me, that we seemingly have evolved to a more technology, into a more kind of transformative way of working, but at the same time, we're still stuck in the old data quality and siloed ways of thinking.
Yeah, so we're stuck in the data quality, processes, procedures, learning how to leverage AI, but somehow the criminals is like a little step ahead because they manage to do it somehow, perhaps due to manipulations in how they need to do it. But yeah, they are a little step ahead. Yeah. And we talk about this field, and you've obviously been in this for a long time and a lot of experience, but would you say there are any skills from outside of FCP which have proven very valuable to you during your career?
I think one of the greatest skills, and again, you just mentioned the knowledge gap, or generally knowledge is also key in order to know how to interpret regulations, how to interpret the requirements into practical steps and translate them into processes and procedures. So I think from the perspective of someone who wants to bring that topic closer to compliance officers, it's storytelling. I think risk data doesn't really move people, but emotions do. So I don't need to scaremonger people, but I do need to tap into that trust, and I do need to tap into the conscious of people's care, right? So if I want make people to care, I tell them stories, or I tell them things that are relatable, that they can identify themselves with. And I think the first connection is the key to actually make them listen, and to then unpack the more complex context of compliance.
So I love how you always get back to it's the human factor behind it. And I hear you when you say that you don't want to scare people or anything, but you specialize in helping organizations turn complex regulatory challenges into opportunities for growth and for businesses and innovation. So again, I know you don't want to scare people, but are there any emerging financial trends that keeps you up at night?
I think in the era of AI, we are being faced with, first of all, again, and it always somehow comes back to that a topic of trust that I just mentioned. In the era of AI, I think the lines of trust and what information we can trust is actually getting blurred. As in, I'm talking here about synthetic identities, KYC verifications, AI-powered fraud and scams, deepfakes, all of that actually is being created with AI, whether it's content, whether it's video and other media, that we don't know anymore whether this information or this media and this visual can be trusted fully. And criminals take it, of course, to a completely different level. So if we already between, private people, as in like on a personal level, have very big issues to identify what's real or what's not real, even in simple terms like social media, financial institutions and companies will even have a bigger burden to actually trust information, trust their clients. And how do they even verify whether all that information that is being provided is actually real or is not real? I give you an example. I would have never imagined that as a startup founder, in a space where you're so vulnerable, and maybe potentially look into raising money or raising funds or something, that there are family offices that are completely AI generated from the company itself all the way to all of the agents that are getting in touch via LinkedIn, other social media channels, emails, and so on, and offer you investments. They research or they set up emails that are highly personalized, and they are addressing you as a startup founder because they know that you might be in a position to raise money. And they use that vulnerability with a completely AI generated company and completely generated AI generated workforce, to make you believe that they are genuine and real. And if you do not know, and if you are in a vulnerable position, you would probably easily fall for it. And that's the first step as a scam, of course, to get money from you. But then the second step is then how to infiltrate the financial system and so on. So yes, the particular topic of AI and how it will impact, as in the dark side, is a very scary subject.
Wow. I had never heard about those kind of examples before. It scares me. God, you really need to be careful out there to verify everything. That's a big scheme building out of AI to for people or for companies. Wow. Okay. So we've been into very many different areas. We talked about the IT in the future and where we came from and building trust. But what would you say is a common misconception that people have of what you actually do if you look from the outside, perhaps before we had this chat, before they know you?
That I do IT, that I just do IT, that I that I just switch, that I tell people to switch the computer on and off so it works again. But the reality is that I sit at the intersection of regulation, risk strategy, and AI-powered technology. And I consult, so it's a bit broader than just consulting or giving advice, but actually I consult, I build products, I build knowledge hubs, and I throw around theoretical concepts. That's so the misconception would be here that I throw around theoretical concepts that no one turns into practice, but actually the reality is then quite the contrary. I help tools to bring people together with the right tools and bring them closer to knowledge that they really need to know about technology.
Yeah, and you're really giving us some example where we need to get hands-on and work on. So let's wrap up this conversation with one favorite question of mine, and that is, how would you explain your job at a dinner party?
That I bring together compliance experts with the AI tech of tomorrow. Think a little bit of Tinder for the tech space.
That, and I think that's a fantastic note to end this conversation. Thank you so much, Aneta, for speaking to me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you're interested in other episodes in this series, you can find them on LinkedIn, on our Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube channels. If you want to learn more about NFCP, you can find us at nfcp.info. We also got virtual and in-person events coming up, thought leaderships from practitioners across the globe, and a growing network of people who understand that financial crime prevention is a shared responsibility, and that it's better when we do it together. Until next time.